like, got Aliyah Boston in the face and then, brushed back. Got her in the eye. And a lot of people are wondering is like, first of all, why was this not an ejection? And should it be a suspension?
What truly separates this incident from a routine flagrant foul is the context leading up to it. About 25 seconds before the hit, Brittney Griner and Aliyah Boston got tangled up while fighting for position. Arms locked, bodies bumping. You could visibly see the frustration building. Anyone watching closely could tell tensions were rising. Then on the very next possession, Griner gets her opportunity and she takes it. That's the key detail people keep glossing over. This wasn't a split-second reaction in traffic. This wasn't incidental contact during a scramble. This was a veteran player fully aware of what she was doing, choosing to respond physically after an earlier confrontation. That's not basketball instinct. That's emotional retaliation. Griner is not an inexperienced rookie who misjudged a play. She's a long-tenured veteran with a documented history of physical altercations on the court. That history matters, not because it condemns her automatically, but because it establishes a pattern the league should be paying attention to. Yet the referees labeled it a common foul. Not a flagrant one. Not a flagrant one. Just a standard foul, treated no differently than a reach-in on a drive. That ruling alone raised eyebrows, but the bigger issue came after the final whistle. Officials miss things in real time. That's not the scandal. Every sport acknowledges that referees can't catch everything live. That's why post-game reviews exist. That's why supplemental discipline exists. Or at least it's supposed to. In this case, nothing happened. No review announcement. No statement. No disciplinary follow-up. Just silence. That silence speaks volumes. It tells players exactly what they can get away with. It tells fans that context doesn't matter. And it tells victims that unless the league decides you're worth protecting, you're on your own. This wasn't a judgment call that needed more angles. The video is clear. The sequence is clear. The intent is clear. And the absence of accountability is just as clear.
And after she got... Look, the ball's nowhere to... Like, she goes... Griner makes no attempt to grab the ball here. Like, Griner is nowhere near the ball. She's not within a meter of the ball. The ball is not within a meter of her by the time she grabs Aliyah Boston's face. There's no question about it that, like, it's intentional. And if you guys know what had happened in the previous possession, they got their arms tangled up. And the fact that there is a history of Aliyah Boston and Brittney Griner going at it.
Now take a step back and think about Unrivaled's entire brand identity. This league markets itself as progressive, player-first, and deeply committed to athlete well-being. Mental health days are encouraged. Injury management is treated with extreme caution. Players are allowed to sit out games for rest and recovery without stigma. Diana Taurasi missed games this season under that exact philosophy. The messaging was clear. Long-term health matters more than short-term results. That's a commendable approach. But then something like this happens, a deliberate strike to another player's face, and suddenly that philosophy disappears. There's no review, no announcement, no acknowledgement that player conduct crossed the line, no reassurance that safety still matters when it gets uncomfortable. The same league that prides itself on caution and care goes completely silent. That contradiction is impossible to ignore. You can't claim to be safety first and then look the other way when one player intentionally endangers another. That's not neutrality. That's selective enforcement. Face shots are among the most serious forms of on-court contact because of the risk involved. Eye injuries can be career-altering. The league knows this, which makes the lack of response even more alarming. If the league truly believes in its own messaging, this incident should have triggered an automatic review. Even if no suspension ultimately came from it, the process alone would have demonstrated consistency. Instead, fans were left with nothing but silence. And silence in moments like this feels like endorsement.
It is a bit of a concern because you know they're not going to be. Because it is Aliyah Boston. Realistically, because it's Aliyah Boston, it's not going to be seen as a concern because, unfortunately, because of proximity to Caitlin Clark, amongst the WNBA media, it's fair game. Aliyah Boston is fair game. Like, it's Aliyah Boston's fair game, Lexi Hull's fair game, Sophie Cunningham's fair game. You are allowed her...
This is where the conversation gets uncomfortable, but it has to happen. Because this incident doesn't exist in a vacuum. There's a pattern emerging, and ignoring it only makes it worse. Aliyah Boston plays for the Indiana Fever. She's Caitlin Clark's teammate. Over the past year, Fever players have increasingly become acceptable targets in ways other teams' players simply aren't. We've seen this before. J.C. Sheldon sliding through Sydney Colson's knees from behind, a play that would have been a straight red card in soccer. Colson was injured. Sheldon received a common foul. No suspension, no fine, minimal media discussion. That same play in the NBA would have resulted in an immediate ejection and multiple game suspension. But it didn't happen here. Why? Because the victim was wearing a Fever jersey. The incident disappeared almost immediately. Memory hold, moved past, no accountability. That sends a message whether the league intends it or not. It tells opponents that Fever players can be treated differently, more aggressively, more recklessly, with fewer consequences. And once that perception takes hold, it becomes dangerous.
If Aliyah caught Brittney Griner with this, I'm fully believe that Aliyah would be suspended by Unrivaled. I fully believe it. But because in the psychotic world of the WNBA, Fever players are fair game. Whether that's fair game from commentators, fair game from the media, fair game from other players. You are allowed...
Watch the motion one more time, slowly and without bias, and it becomes impossible to defend what happened. Brittney Griner's hand is nowhere near the basketball. Not close, not even within a reasonable playing distance. Her arm doesn't reach toward the ball at all. Instead, it swings directly across Aliyah Boston's face and makes clear contact with her eye. There is no attempt to contest a shot, no effort to disrupt a pass, no basketball logic behind the movement. This wasn't a mistimed block or an awkward collision. It was a deliberate act. Calling this a basketball play gone wrong completely misrepresents what we're seeing. Basketball plays are aimed at the ball. This wasn't. This was retaliation, plain and simple. And the fact that the league is even allowing debate over whether this deserves a suspension says far more about the league's internal standards than it does about the play itself. Player safety is supposed to be non-negotiable. That's the line leagues love to repeat when it's convenient. But moments like this expose how selectively that principle is enforced. If intent matters, and it absolutely should, then this incident checks every box. Clear wind-up, direct contact to the face. No basketball purpose. Those are the exact criteria leagues use when justifying suspensions in other situations. What makes this more troubling is not just the act itself, but the response to it. Or more accurately, the lack of response. When fans are left arguing over whether a direct shot to the face should result in discipline, that's a sign the system has failed to set clear expectations. No player should feel comfortable retaliating physically, especially in a way that risks serious injury. Eyes aren't something you gamble with. Faces aren't collateral damage. The league knows this. They've suspended players for far less in the past. So when this becomes a gray area instead of an automatic review, it sends a dangerous message. That enforcement depends on who you are and who you hit. That's why this moment matters. It's not about being anti-Griner or pro-Boston. It's about consistency. It's about credibility. And it's about whether player safety is actually a priority or just a slogan the league rolls out when it suits them.
Unrivaled, unfortunately, is a lot of the way Unrivaled is old WNBA media. So nothing will be done with this. Absolutely no will be done. Nothing will be done. And I don't think in general that something like this you could say, oh yeah, is worthy of a suspension. But when it comes to Unrivaled and it being this buddy league and players, you don't actually have to.
The double standard becomes glaringly obvious when you flip the roles. Imagine Aliyah Boston swinging her arm across Brittney Griner's face. Imagine a Fever player slide tackling a Mercury or Sparks player from behind and causing an injury. Do you honestly believe the response would be the same? Of course not. There would be an immediate review. Statements within hours. Media personalities calling for suspensions. Long-form think pieces about dirty play and protecting stars. We know this because we've seen it happen before. The league has proven it can act quickly when it wants to. The problem is that it doesn't always want to. When discipline depends on jersey color instead of behavior, the league loses credibility. When safety enforcement feels selective, trust erodes. And when fans notice patterns, they don't forget them.